I met Sean Mike. He was 36 years old. My man didn't make his first $1 million until he was like 40 years old. So let's not act like, oh, well, she's young. No, 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 no. Let's be clear. You got to take things for what they are. Because nobody's looking at Sean Mike going, oh my God, I wish I was him in his 20s. No, you probably don't wish you were him in his 20s. But he didn't make a change until he was 36 years old. Actually, I met him, he was 38. I'm the same age he was when he met me. And look at what he's done over the last 15, 16 years. So that whole 20s, 30s, 40s, he said 35, 45, 55. I'm crushing it over the next 15, 20 years. Everybody's going to have to make that decision, whether you're 20, 35, 55. But Madison Montgomery has come into this thing and saw this. How long have you been with Family First Life, Madison?
2.5 years now at this point.
2.5 years. She was part-time for a little bit. All right, she'll tell you her story, was doing some corporate sales thing and didn't start off like this hot shot in this business. So what you see today, you're like, oh my God, you must have just came in crushing it. Well, she's going to tell you what that looked like, but also how her why developed and why in 2.5 years she has a team. What's your team doing every single month
We're
and
doing
growing?
about 250, 300 a month at this.
250, $300,000 a month. How much do you sell a month?
About 20 at this
About
point.
20 grand. What's the most you've sold in a month?
36.
36 grand. So selling at a high level, building and teaching people how to go to do that. And only in 2.5 years, you've built that. And how longer were you part-time during that 2.5?
4 months.
Three,
About
four
3 months.
months.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, I would take notes out, write this down. If you have any questions, write them down. You can put them in the chat. Maybe we'll have some time to get to them. But Madison, I know your time is valuable. I appreciate you hopping on. And I've been waiting and looking forward to hearing what you have because I've heard your trainings multiple times. All right. But it's just something about having this type of setting, being able to be a little bit more direct with it. And so I appreciate what you're going to do and what you have done. So the floor is all yours.
I appreciate that, Dom. And those affirmations were powerful. I love that you guys do that. Like that builds such a strong culture. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about myself, how I got started with FFL and insurance. So I am originally from Seattle, Washington. I moved down to Phoenix about 5 years ago. And Phoenix was a really big spot for insurance. I had never heard about like life insurance sales before. I actually worked for a corporate company called Milwaukee Tool. Some of you guys know it's the red power tool at Home Depot. So I did corporate sales with them, and a roommate of mine, she started selling life insurance. And so I watched her do this for about 6 months. I was one of those people who watched from the sidelines. And at first, I was one of the people that also told her that this probably was not going to work for her. I'd been in a lot of different kind of sales opportunities before. And so when she started telling me about this opportunity where she was going to sell life insurance from the phone, I was like, that's not real. I don't think that's a real thing that you're getting yourself into. But I watched as she started, like Dom said, compound her actions. And I watched her starting to work just the same amount of time as me. She was working like a 50, 60 hour a week schedule, but she was making insane money. And so I watched for about 5, 6 months and then finally got my license, to be honest with you guys, with no intention of seeing this as like a business opportunity. My why really was to come in and make a couple extra $1,000 a month. And so that was really my goal when I first got started. It wasn't until I actually got into it and started selling for myself that I realized that there is a lot of opportunity in this industry, one as a salesperson, but also as someone who's going to build a business. But it starts with those compounding actions to be able to sell and like see that income for yourself.
Madison, when you started, like did you want to build a business day one? What did that? Well, you said I just wanted to make a few $1,000, right? Was building a business on your mind?
Not at all. I just wanted to sell. And then even after I transitioned into full time, it really took a couple of commissions that equaled the same amount that I was making in my monthly salary with Milwaukee. I was like, I've got to do this full time. Like I would be dumb to not jump into this full time. But 8 months for me to recruit my first agent. I just sold for almost my entire first year in this because I really saw it as like a sales opportunity. And I was honestly afraid to like give the opportunity to another person because I was afraid it wouldn't work for them. My original upline who I'd come into this business with, she ended up moving into health insurance. So she stopped selling life insurance. I was really afraid of that happening to someone that I brought into the business as well. But I think it took actually bringing my first agent into the business to realize that if you are doing what you expect your agents to do day in and day out, the right people are going to fit into that framework and they're going to compound and snowball and learn how to do this for themselves as well.
Huh. Now, what was your part-time income?
I was
You said
making,
you needed to, you said you made more in a couple paychecks than you made in, was it a whole month at Milwaukee
yeah,
or a
yeah,
couple
I,
sales? What
I
was
was making $750 a week at Milwaukee, working
it?
like
Okay,
65, 70 hours a week.
got it. Okay. And when you went full-time in insurance, how much did you make that month that said, hey, I'm going to go full-time?
That first month, I believe I made like $9,200
9,200.
that first month.
Okay. And how old are you, Madison?
26.
26. All right. So you were 24, 25 years old when this happened. Okay.
Hmm.
What were some of the most on the sales end? Okay. And then maybe sales end, it could be investing in your business leads or anything like that. But what was some of the most, what were the most difficult pieces for you to adjust to accept as an independent entrepreneur versus it being part-time?
It was definitely the investment aspect of it. I was already working long hours, and so I transitioned that into this opportunity because the way that I saw it was if I wasn't working, like if I did not work at least 6 hours a day doing this, I felt unemployed because I had always had a paycheck. I'd always worked at like either a corporate company or a 9 to 5. Ever since I was 16, I had two jobs. So I was one of those people that wanted to get to the office before anybody else. I was the last one to leave because I felt like I wasn't doing enough for myself if I didn't do that. But the reason that I was working those long, long hours is because I was so afraid to invest in the leads. And I started off on age leads, bronze, silver, like ILC leads, because that's
Yeah.
really all I had at the time, to be honest with you guys. Like leads has changed, they've changed a lot over the last 2 years. And so I had to get on the computer and go into the ILC at like 5 in the morning and kind of fight for those bronze leads in the areas that I wanted them. And so I really took advantage of like the hours that I did have to work and I worked my time zones. But I think if I would have started investing into leads at a higher level, a little bit quicker, that would have changed my business faster than it did. It did take time, but it was definitely the investing in leads that was nerve-wracking for me at first.
Now, what's your average lead spend for your personal business a week?
For
Lead.
leads,
Yeah.
about 1,200 a week. I
About
spend it.
1,200 a week. All
Yeah.
right. And 20 to 30K a month. All
Yeah.
right. Now, if I'm working with you and say I'm not licensed or I am licensed, right? I'm talking to you about, let's go unlicensed. Okay. Set the expectations for me as in what this business, not what it does. All right. I know what it does, but what I'm going to have to do.
Hmm.
Okay. Like talk to me about, I'm getting started to work with you. Give me what I need to know so that I'm on the right track. What would that look like?
Yeah, sure. I prefer to work with people with no insurance experience. I think it brings like a fresh mindset to the industry, and that's really moldable. But when I explain this business and this opportunity to people who have no insurance experience, they're unlicensed. Really, it is what you put into it is what you'll get out of it. But you have to follow the framework. You cannot come in and try to reinvent. I think a lot of people here reinvent the wheel. And I see a lot of people, either from other sales industries, people who are unlicensed, they come in and they try to reinvent their own wheel. They try to figure out a new script or they try to figure out a new way of like buying leads. I hear all the time from like, I work in an office out here in Arizona, so I always hear, hey, there's this new lead vendor doing X, Y, and Z. And you've got to start with the basics. You've got to start with age leads. You've got to start with those leads that are, you're going to get a lot of those intro objections and stuff like that. So when I'm explaining this industry to someone who has absolutely no industry experience, I tell them that it really is like crucial that you have grit and work ethic in that first 6 months to a year, because that's where a lot of that learning is going to form, and you're going to build that foundation for the rest of your career in this industry. It's a snowball effect. And so if you come in and you are treating it like a part-time job, you're probably going to see less than part-time income. But if you come into this and you treat it like a full-time, like you have to be an employee to yourself before you're a business owner. So that is the mentality that I always instill to every single person that comes into my team is like, I'm not your boss. Like Nicolette, who I work with closely, she's not your boss. No, but Sean Mike's not your boss. You are a employee to yourself. And so you have to have that grit and that work ethic for at bare minimum your first year, working long hours, investing in the leads. And that shouldn't scare you if you're someone who is already comfortable to bet on yourself. And if you're someone who's interested in this opportunity, you're already somewhat comfortable betting on yourself.
Ain't that the truth? Okay. You said grit that first 6 months to a year. That made me think of a question that I get quite often is like, what's the schedule like? What's a typical day in the life of Madison when she got started? You know what I mean? Like, what's that look like? And I think sometimes as I recruited, I would kind of soften that up, to be honest with you. And I don't know why, maybe I just thought, I don't know, now looking back, I'm like, did I think that they couldn't go through what I went through? But when I see the biggest growing agencies and folks really hammering it, they're giving them what people call it the brutal truth or whatever it is. It's like you're not selling a dream, you're selling reality. Okay, so if I asked you, hey, what's a typical day in life insurance like, sir? What's my schedule like, or what's it look like? What do you tell me?
As a new agent in your first 6 months, you need to have a set start time for yourself every single day. And really, there's no end time, to be honest with you. That's the mentality that I had behind it, is my start time for me when I was a new agent. I was lucky enough to have an office close to me. So I was driving 45 minutes to the office every day, getting there by 7 o'clock. So I had to leave my apartment at 6:15. But those were sacrifices that I was willing to make. I didn't have an end time. Like the clock didn't hit 5 o'clock and I was like, okay, I'm done now. Like if I hadn't made a sale, I'm grabbing Washington leads. I'm grabbing Alaska leads. I'm grabbing Hawaii leads. Like, and I'm staying until I absolutely cannot call anybody else. And even if I didn't make any money that day, if I didn't close one, I'm like, I push the needle forward. Like when you are like working, sometimes and not even just insurance, but in sales, sometimes it feels like you're working for free, but you're not. You're pushing that needle forward. And
Mm.
so I tell everybody on my team, like, if you feel like you're going through a rut, you need to work through that rut faster than when you're well. So like if you have a full day, like if I have a day where I'm not selling anything, I'm working a 15, 16 hour day because I know that I'm working through that rut quicker. And so when I show up the next day, it's like, okay, maybe I didn't make any money yesterday, but I worked 15 hours. There is no way that if I work 15 hours the next 2 days, I'm not going to sell something. So you just have to work through it. But to answer your question with schedule, I think like you've got to have a set start time for yourself, and everyone's schedule might look a little bit different. This industry is not one size fits all for the people that come into it. So for someone like me who I wasn't married, didn't have kids, like I was able to work a 16-hour day nonstop, no breaks. But a lot of people don't have honestly that luxury of having nothing else in your schedule. So you've got to pick a start time that's going to work for you, that you are going to be able to stick to and like lay that as your foundation. And then really for me, there's no end time. Even now there's no end time for me. It's just when the work is done, I go home.
That's huge. Start time, vital. No end time. You said something that made me like, I just had like PTSD when you said work for free. Okay. And I remember when I started, like, I, I had to learn that pushing the needle. Okay. I had to learn that because I'd wake up and my America would say negative 3,500.
Mhm.
And then I'd go out there and write $5,000 thinking I was about to get paid 1,500. Like I understood the math, but then another one would fall off. Then I'd be like, damn, I just did all that shit for free. You know what I mean? Then I get
Mhm.
emotional about it. Can you relate to that, or walk us through that attachment with these advances and working and how to really understand how to move that needle?
100%. Yeah, that gives me a little bit of PTSD too. When I first started, Americo paid us before the effective date. So I would sell.
Oh, I was sharing that with people before. I was like, yo, we're talking about draft dates. And I was
Mhm.
like, hey, it's draft dates still suck, but could you imagine getting paid before then? Like how much worse it would be for you?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So they still suck. Let's work on them. But yeah, when we were paid on approval, that was a mess.
That was a
But
different time.
continue.
The highs were lows were a lot more high and a lot more low at that time. So and I remember my first sale, it fell off. It was a his and hers. I remember it was, I think, $1,600 I made literally in 24 hours. The next day I woke up and I saw $1,600 I was getting paid. And in 2 weeks, I saw negative $1,600 that I owed back. And so it was really, really high and low. And a lot of times now too, I mean, I think chargebacks persistency is a whole different thing. Like that is number one most important thing. I can get into that in a second, but I think in terms of mindset, like there will be highs and lows, even if you don't have an advance. You know, even if you don't have this or that maybe used to make the industry very high and low, you're still going to have highs and lows. It's so important to stay neutral through it all because you see people come in, especially new agents. I've had agents on my team that come in and they sell 25, 30, 40K their first 60 days in this industry and their high is out of this world. Like they think that they have found like a gold mine in this. Well, then it's like, okay, a chargeback starts to happen. Then they have a couple cancellations, or then they have a month where maybe they go through a sales rut. They sell a policy or two rather than 10, 15 in a week. So then those lows really start to hit. So you've got to keep yourself cable lined in the middle between both because if you're really stuck on the highs, it's going to be really hard to get out of the lows and vice versa. Like when you're going through a low, don't get stuck there. You know, you've got to like know that it's going to go up in town, but you got to stay cable lined right in the middle of it.
That's so funny. It reminds me, Sean Mike, I had a visual. He used to say, Dom, like, don't be so miserable that like when things go bad that you want to kill yourself. But also when things are going great, don't be so excited that you feel like you can run down the street naked. Like, dude, you got to stay like right in the middle.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
He
Something
goes, dude,
called,
both are bad. Two
yeah,
up, two down, both are bad.
yeah,
I hear
100%.
you.
And I remember when I started it, this is something that I also coach like my team on when it comes to the highs and lows. If you're going through lows, if you're going through highs, talk to someone who has been through those same highs and lows on both ends. You know,
Right.
you're talking to the people who are also experiencing that same low. They haven't experienced the high yet. That's what's going to keep you stuck there. Because once I think Sean said this either at I remember I have it written down on a post note right here, and it's been there for 6 months. But he said when this ship is sinking, people want to run to who they're going to sink with to stay together. And so when you feel like you're stuck in those lows, people naturally want to run to the same people who are experiencing those same lows when really you should be running to the people who maybe have experienced them, but they're experiencing the highs because they're going to give you the honest truth that maybe you don't want to hear. But that is what's going to also keep you neutral in that position is not like having a group mentality when it comes to the highs or the lows and just like staying neutral through it all.
That's strong. That's strong. You mentioned persistency. All right. So talk to us. What does that mean first off, and how do we work on it? How do we get better at it?
Yeah. When to be transparent with you guys, when I got started in the industry, persistency, I didn't know what that word meant for probably 3 months when
Right.
I got started.
Me either. I didn't know what it was until Transamerica was about to fire me. They were like, yo,
Exactly.
they're
Yeah.
like, yo, by the way, you don't change it. I was like, oh shit. Okay. I
Hmm.
was just writing more. I thought I just
Yeah.
wrote more. It was okay. Like,
Yeah.
no, they don't work like that. So yeah.
Yeah. I remember one of the leaders that we previously worked with gave me a really tough piece of advice because I was selling at a high level, you know, but when that Americo 6 month persistency came out for the first time and I saw it was in the red, I was like, well, they're not going to terminate me because I sell a lot. They're like, they don't care. You sell a lot that falls off. So they're definitely going to terminate you. And that really scared me straight. And so I think when it comes to persistency, it always starts with the sales process. It starts on that first initial phone call. And I tell everybody on my team, do not be a yes man when it comes to sales, because that is going to make it easier for your client to either cancel. It's going to be easier for them to lapse their policy. You want to be direct with the person that you're talking to about if this is something that's actually comfortable, maintainable, affordable for them, but not for you, it's for them. Because what's the point of having a policy in place if they're going to pay 7 premiums and then lapse on the policy? They're out 7 months worth of premiums. Their family gets nothing when they pass away, and it is a bad look on you. So having that directness with every single person that you get on the phone with is going to help your persistency for one. But I think going above and beyond for your clients too, once they are a client, like that is going to maintain your persistency at a high level too. And I teach everybody on my team, a client is a client when you've submitted the application. Do not confuse someone who told you that they might buy from you in 3 months. That is not a client yet. That is a lead. A client is someone that you've submitted a policy on, and those are the people that you bend over backwards for, because that is what's going to maintain your persistency at a high level.
When you're setting up, when you're going through structure piece, all right, what does that look like when you're talking to the client and you're setting it up to what you're about to do? What does that look? Because you mentioned, and actually, let's take a step back a little bit. You mentioned intro objections, all right, and working age leads and things like that. And you said you're going to get those intro objections. What are some of those intro objections that we are going to get, but if you're not prepared, you're going to get smoked? And why is it so important to be on those? What are those?
Yeah, like the not interested, I already got insurance, I already talked to somebody, I don't know what you're talking about, I don't remember filling this out. That's why it's so important to start on an age lead, because if you can, I tell everyone on my team, if you can sell $10,000 IP from like a bronze and a silver lead, you can do 20, 30 on a fresh lead. Because if you can break through those intro objections, you're going to learn a lot about like actually cohesively going into a call to close, because you're breaking down those barriers right from the beginning. And that's the main difference, at least from my perspective, in running an age lead versus a fresh lead. For a fresh lead, if you don't know what you're doing, you're purchasing a presentation. You're not purchasing a sale. You're going to get into that presentation a lot easier, but what happens when you get those presentation objections? You're not going to know how to handle it. So if you're running those age leads, you're going to get those intro objections. It's going to make you really strong and really sharp on the phone, because you're ready for it from the get-go. You're not just like getting right into the presentation and then you get hit with those objections 20 minutes into the call and you're like, wait, I don't know how to handle this. I thought you were really interested in this. I thought this was going to be a laydown sale. So when it comes to those intro objections, I teach everybody, when it comes to like rebuttals, we're really big on sales psychology. Between
Okay.
Nicolette and I, we really teach psychology behind the sale. And a lot of the psychology behind the sale that I teach my agents stems from other like sales industries or opportunities that I've been in. So I've taken little bits and pieces and applied it to the training that we teach our agents now. But when it comes to intro objections, those are 95% of the time a smoke screen. They just want to get you off the phone. So it really is a game of who can ask more questions and who can be more direct. You want to break through into that needs analysis as quickly as possible, because you're going to break through those barriers, but you also want to make sure that they understand why you're calling. There's no misleading going on. And if someone hangs up on you, I'll always call someone who hangs up on me back, but I'm trying to get them off the phone as quickly as possible to be efficient with my time and get through to that next person. But if you're like playing the game of asking more questions than the person, because we all know when we're dialing an age lead, someone's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Where'd this come from? It's kind of hard for me to do like a self role play. I don't know how I can talk to myself back, but you you guys know what I mean. Like be really direct in those intro objections. I tell everybody on my team, when you get those intro objections, no more than 3 sentences back on those rebuttals. No more than three sentences. And we teach the AAA method, which is acknowledge, answer, ask a question. Really quick, really to the point. And that's going to get you deeper into the call rather than trying to spout off every single reason why they should be talking to you. Figure out the root of why they're like giving you this smoke screen. Either they've gotten 10 calls that day from other insurance agents because they're one of those people that fills out every single form on Facebook that they see. They maybe got a quote that they didn't like. It was too high. They've already been declined. They talked to someone who they didn't like. Sometimes it's a really easy fix, but those age leads are going to teach you a lot about being a problem solver, and breaking down those barriers.
Man, you just said I'm trying to get it over basically as quick as possible, right? Like I'm like I was talking to somebody. We had a call yesterday, and we are talking about somebody asked how long should your appointments be. I said, hey, it doesn't really matter. Like my closes, I don't give a shit. Like
Mhm.
I don't care. But what I do care about is when my no closes are long.
Mhm.
What does that mean to you when I say that? Like, why is it important that your no closes aren't 30, 45 minutes an hour? Like, what's a good time frame for those to be? How do you identify with that? What are those like?
Yeah. I love that you asked that question. And I know there's a couple people on my team right now who I've had this exact conversation with. Because in like those no closes will teach you a lot, but I think a lot of people, especially in your first 90 days, 6 months, you're so focused on being a friend to the person that you talk to. When I learned this, I think, 5 years ago. I did alcohol sales before I worked for Milwaukee, and that's a very fun industry to be in. But I learned really quickly, you don't want to be someone's friend, you want to be the professional. So when you are on that first initial phone call with somebody, especially, we've all been on the phone with someone who wants to talk our ear off, because a lot of people in this world are lonely. They want to talk to somebody. And so for me, when I first started selling, I'm a 23-year-old girl. People love to have conversations and kind of waste time. If you're someone who's naturally friendly, naturally liking to have conversations with people, people want to waste your time. They want to talk to you. And so when it comes to like breaking down a call to close, we don't really book appointments on my team. We do call to
Yeah.
close, no matter
Neither
what
do
the
we.
lead is. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And so I teach everybody, when you look down at your phone and you see how long you've been on the phone with somebody, within the first 3 minutes, you should already be in that needs analysis. That needs analysis should be done by the first 10 to 15 minutes of your call. You should be presenting between 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how in depth you had to go, how many medications they're taking, what that looks like for them. But you should not, on a sale that does not make it, or a phone call that doesn't make it into the application process, you should not be on that phone call longer than 22 minutes. I have a math brain. And
Right.
so we we break everything down to like the time frame that you should be on the phone, and average call to close. Once agents on my team are doing over 20K a month, that's really that threshold where I think it's a race to 100 presentations. Once you're doing $20,000 or above, you have seen a lot of different situations, a lot of different circumstances, and you've pretty much run, you know, every type of situation, every type of product that you could pitch at that point. And so perfect call to close time in a perfect world is 35 to 45 minutes. But once someone's a client, I mean, I'll sit there for 2 hours and talk to you. But
No.
close time, 35, 45 minutes.
And that's so big. That's so big. And I don't think we talk about the no close time frame enough and what it does to your mental stability and your belief in the business.
Hmm.
I hear folks on live, and I love live dials now because we get to hear so many. And it's like, oh my God, they're crushing you right now. And you're allowing it to happen. It's like, I'll tell people, like, yo, just hang up. Just hang up on them. Hang up right now. They're like, that's rude. But that comes from that I'm trying to be their friend,
Hmm.
right? I'm not trying to be rude to the client. I'm trying to help you, because the longer you stay on the phone, the lower your belief level is going to get in this business,
Hmm.
right? And then you're going to start trying to fight a fight that ain't even real. I
Hmm.
remember being on the phone with everybody forever and then expecting that for the next call. When you cut it quick, your expectations go away. You're in control. All right. And all right. So let's I want to talk, and anybody has any questions, this will be my last one. Being in control on the phone. Okay. Face-to-face sales is one thing. If folks on here have backgrounds face-to-face, you have a different level of control. But I believe on the phone, it's different. And what are some big things on the phone that we have to pay attention to as it pertains to not just gaining control? Let's go keeping control and getting it back, because we can lose it on the phone. How do you get it back? So let's talk about control on the phone, then we'll open it up to anybody.
That's huge. I teach something on to my team called perceived client control. It's like a psychology sale thing. But really, a key to selling at a high level is maintaining perceived client control on every single call. So, the way that you do that is by one, continuing to ask questions. You always want to end pretty much every single statement or every single point you make with a question. That naturally just reels control back to you as the professional. But perceived client control essentially means that the person that you're speaking to believes that they are in total control of the decision making, the trajectory of where the call is going and the direction of the call is going. And every single call that you get on, I explain it like it's like a road. You have a destination, you might take a wrong turn, but you want to come back to that main road that's going to take you to like the end place that you need to be, which is submitting the application. And so no call is going to be perfect. You might have someone ask you a random off the wall question. Answer the question and then ask them another question that's going to reel them back in further into the call. So, for example, if I have somebody on the phone who I'm, going through the needs analysis and I'm starting to like say it's someone who's super unhealthy and they want a term. I know we've all gotten the phone with someone like that who's like
Yep.
they're really unhealthy, but they want something that they definitely cannot get. Education is huge in sales. And so even if you're a newer agent who doesn't know everything, that's why live dials is so important because there's going to be someone there who's going to tell you exactly what to say to make it sound like you know exactly what you're talking about in that moment. But for example, if someone is they want something that they can't have and they tell me I know exactly what I want, in their mind they're taking the control back. They think that they're taking control of the choice. It's
Right.
so important to explain to them, yeah, I hear you, Dom. I get on the phone with people in your same situation all the time. In fact, I actually just helped someone last week who wanted a term, but let me tell you this. So the heart attack that you had three years ago, there is absolutely no company out there who is going to qualify you for a term. If anybody tells you different, they're probably not doing their job right. They're not doing right by you. So let's dig in a little bit about what actually this insurance is going to do for your family and what we need to actually look at it for, whether that's covering the mortgage, you're still working, loss of income. Let's dig into it a little bit more. And then I just move forward. I don't sit there and cycle with them about why do you want a term? Well, let me see what I can do for you. Let me see which company is going to get you a term if you had a heart attack 3 years ago. I'm very direct because that comes back to also being efficient with your time. If I'm like, there are people out there who are stubborn, they're not going to buy if it's not exactly what they want, and that's okay. But there are people out there who are going to take your education, take what you have to say as a professional, and let you help them and put them in the best position for them. So I think a lot of that control comes with the comfort ability to be direct and be honest with your client. And don't be afraid to hurt someone's feelings. I mean, sales is like one of those industries where people are naturally taught to be a yes person, to tell the person on the phone exactly what they want to hear. But I will tell you guys what, like if you are direct and if you are that one agent who tells them no, they are going to it's going to stick with them. If you're that one agent who tells them, no, you can't get this and this is why, and you actually educate them as to why they can't, and you can apply that to any situation. But I think being direct and being confident and honest, even if you're not necessarily confident in everything you know at that point, like fake it till you make it is a real thing. And
Right.
so have that tonality in your voice, like like you've been doing this for 10 years. Everyone I get on the phone with, I say, I've been doing this a long time. And they might be 75 years old. They've been working in their industry for 40 years, but I've been doing, I mean, it's a long time for me, and when I was brand new, 6 months, I mean, that's a long time to be doing this too. So I think having that confidence in yourself and being direct and honest will take you a long way of having that control with your client.
So big. So big. Yo, thank you for answering my long list of questions. Okay. You guys, it's all open. You can unmute yourself if you have a question, put it in the chat. Anything you got.
Madison, you mentioned being direct a lot. Like, and I 100% agree with that. And one of the biggest things I had to work on early on too, but like, what are things that you hear? Because maybe an agent might be on here going like, I think I'm direct. I don't know. Am I being direct? And it's like, what are things you hear from agents that are like, when you tell them like, hey, you need to be more direct? Like, what is the client saying? Like, what are they saying that's not the right posture to be that, as direct as needed to be?
Mhm. Something I hear a lot of agents do, which is in the presentation, is when someone is giving you the runaround, they want to think about it, they want to talk to their spouse, that's a price issue. If someone tells me, for example, I give them, like, I don't know how you guys do your presentations, we give gold, silver, bronze, we give our 3 options. And if someone tells me, I'm not really sure, I need to talk to my husband. I'm straight up asking them, be honest with me, Bryce, is that bronze option, the 10,000 at 157 a month, is 157 a month something that would be comfortable and maintainable for you to pay each month? I'm straight up asking, I'm putting it out on the table and asking them, is that something that would be comfortable and maintainable for you? Because a lot of people are going to be afraid to tell you that without you asking. But you want to take that pressure off of them and explain to them, most people that I talk to, they are in a similar position as you, and it's not just you, Bryce, it's, everyone I talk to, I ask this question, is that 157 a month something that would be comfortable and maintainable for you? And I'm letting them, tell me if it's not, then at that point, but that's because I was direct and I took control of the call. I see a lot of agents who are nervous to ask questions like that because they don't want to offend somebody. They don't want to ask, they don't want to ask them if it's something that they can afford. Because they're putting themselves in the client's shoes, but you've got to keep yourself in the shoes of the professional. And so really, from my perspective, I think those questions that, a lot of agents try to say things perfectly. Just say it how it should be said. And if someone does get offended by the way you ask it, then they probably weren't going to buy from you anyways. But asking those hard questions that are a little bit uncomfortable, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, it's probably a direct question that you should be asking. And then it's going to feel uncomfortable until you do it about 50, 100, 150 times, and then it doesn't feel uncomfortable anymore.
Huge. What are some of those questions? Like, what are some of the best questions that you feel you ask like early on in a call to build value?
I think you find a lot of value in the needs analysis with people, and sometimes you'll find a way that you can provide value for them that they didn't even realize when they first got on the phone with you. We always ask initially before we even get into that needs analysis, what was the primary concern when they'd sent this in? Are we looking just to cover final expenses? Are we looking at something that's going to build a cash value, something that's going to protect the mortgage, income replacement? What's the primary concern? And a lot of people are going to tell you all of the above. And so when you're going through that needs analysis, we have a very in-depth needs analysis. We always start with asking about health, medications, previous health, previous insurance history, because that's going to tell us a lot about where we can actually put them. But then when we dig more into the financial analysis, it's not for us to decide what they can pay, because transparently, I have clients who they told me their income was $3,000 a month and they pay $400 a month and it's been on the books for 2 years. And then I have clients who made $15,000 a month and they are not paying any more than $50. So
real.
yeah, it's, you never, ever, ever, like, we are not financial advisors. We are not, we're insurance producers. So our job is to, one, put them in the best position, but it's not our job to tell them what they can and can't pay. So when we're going through that financial analysis, we're asking questions like, logistically, like, you're still working. Okay. Does your wife work? No. Okay. What's your monthly or annual income? And we're asking that to figure out what the family would need as income replacement. So sometimes when I get on the phone with somebody who was looking just for I don't know, like, they're looking for a term policy, but then I figure out that they have nothing to cover final expenses. They have nothing to cover the mortgage. They have nothing to cover income replacement. It turns into like creating value behind, we need to cover all of these. We need to cover what's actually going to be the number one, like the first thought on your beneficiary's mind when you do pass away. Sometimes that is just final expenses, but when you're going through that needs analysis and you're asking those questions, like, think about the questions that you would want someone to ask you if you were, and there's a lot of trainings on YouTube. A lot of like mine and Nicolette's trainings are honestly from YouTube University. Like, we have watched every single FFL podcast, every single live presentation, and we take notes on all of that. And if we hear a question that somebody else says in the needs analysis that we have never asked before, we're throwing it in the script for all of our agents to start asking. So I think, like, figuring out what you can actually get for them first with their health or their insurance history, and then what is the primary reason that they actually need the insurance from your professional perspective, whether that is to cover the mortgage, the income, or just final expenses if they're a little bit older. But really being in depth with that needs analysis. So I wish there was like a couple of key questions that we ask, but really I think making sure you know what their health looks like. Like, we're not presenting any numbers on my team until we know what their health looks like. I'm not going to even mention an IUL or a term. Like, if I get on the phone with somebody who's like, in that first 5 minutes, they're like, oh yeah, I saw this kind of policy. It's like an IUL, like I was seeing you could throw 250, $400 a month in that. A lot of agents, especially newer agents, get excited because they're like, ooh, I'm going to sell, like, I'm about to post 5,000 in the Discord or 5,000 in the group me here in about 30 minutes. But then you start actually like overselling a product to them, and then you actually get into the real questions and like the grit of the call, and they're like, oh yeah, I had a heart attack 6 days ago. And you're like, oh, that's great. Now I have to like twist my presentation after overselling this one type of product to you for 10 minutes. Now I got to show you $10,000 a whole life for the same price. So I think like maintaining composure while you're going through those questions. And we are never bringing up numbers, options, products until we know that baseline health, what can they actually get? And then we go from there.
Good. Anybody else?
Yeah, I got a question. I know you said
Got Scott.
that what helped you go basically from dud to stud was lead spend. Was there anything else that helped you make that jump?
I really think it's like it is a compounding effect. The more you work, the more you're going to learn. The lead spend really just changes the amount of leads you're getting in. And to be really honest with you, when I did increase my lead spend, I was still running those aged final expense leads. So I had to work even harder and dial even more because it's a lot of agents, I think by increasing your lead spend, you're magically going to make an extra $10,000, but there's work that goes behind that. And so we always are hearing buy more leads, you got to invest in leads. Yes, you do, but you've got to put the work in behind that. So I was constantly trying to outbeat like my previous week. So I've never been someone who's really competitive with other people, but I've always been really competitive with myself. I think that if you maintain a mentality like that, then that helps you a lot in an industry like this. So if I had a week where I was in the office at 7:30 in the morning the week prior, I'm trying to get there at 7 o'clock the next week. Or if I worked until 7 p.m., I'm trying to work a little bit later the next time. And I'm trying like new things as well and throwing that in there. I think you've got to stick with the same thing. A lot of agents get like analysis paralysis when they come in and they see veteran leads, mortgage protection, IULs, they're like, and they buy veteran leads one day and then 2 days later they're doing mortgage protection. Then the next day they're doing IULs. You've got to stick to one thing for minimum 45 days. Learn that, especially as a new agent, but always try to beat your personal best as you do that as well, because it's going to compound and it's going to be a snowball effect to help you learn and grow. And naturally, just as you start to find your groove in sales, it starts to feel like easy, maybe isn't the right word for it, but it starts to feel really simple. And that comes from yourself. So always stay learning. If I hear somebody on Zoom, like we work on a Zoom with multiple different agencies out here in Arizona. So if I am like hopping through the Zoom rooms and I hear someone I've never heard before, I'm going to keep dialing, but I'm going to sit there and listen to them through their presentation, because you never know what word track or what like one person does in their presentation that you've never heard before that you're going to be able to latch onto, and that's going to take you from 20K a month to 40K a month. So I think that's huge also with, I know most people in this room are newer agents, but when it comes to teaching agents how to sell insurance as well, I see a lot of teams who want to keep their agents just within that team. I think that's something that really brought a lot of my agents from selling 20, 30K a month to becoming Hall of Fame producers. I've got 2 Hall of Fame producers on my team now at this point that absolutely, they're just dogs, they crush it. But I was getting them in front of other people. I was like, I might be able to teach you what I can teach you, but you might learn something from Dominique Rogers that I might listen to. I might not like catch hold of it. It might not resonate with me, but you might hear it from him and it's going to take you from 20K a month to 40K a month. So I think like constantly listening to new people when you're, if bringing agents is something that you're doing, get them in front of other people and then learn from your people too. I mean, my agents teach me things on a daily basis that I've never learned before. So I think just constantly stay learning and it's going to be a snowball effect from there.
Awesome, thanks.
So we got time for maybe one or two more, depending on what y'all got, if anything. All right, so we'll close it out with this then, okay? Madison, you've gone through, this will be your third, fourth quarter coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Help us prepare for the fourth quarter. What should we look out for? Why should we be excited about it? What happens during this time of year in sales and life insurance specifically that you've learned, experience?
Yeah. The fourth quarter, and I think it's about mindset. One, a lot of people come into this fourth quarter with the mentality that it's the slow time of year, it's the holidays. People still buy life insurance in the fourth quarter, and people buy a lot of life insurance in the fourth quarter. So I think it's about swapping your mindset. And the way that I always see the fourth quarter, I've seen this way now. I have gone through two. This is going to be my third, fourth quarter of the year. I see it as momentum building. I have my goals set for what I want, my personal sales, what my team, I have what I want that to look like by convention 2026. So right now is momentum building time. Like I am building that momentum because right after the fourth quarter, first quarter starts to pick back up. But if you've been spending the fourth quarter, like telling yourself, oh, it's the slow time of year. It's the slow time of year. I can work 3 hours a day. I can, skip out on this week because of this or because of XYZ, or no one's buying from me because it's slow quarter. Like that, those are things that people tell themselves, not just in insurance, but in every sales industry, especially telesales, like especially in insurance. Like there are a lot of people out there just like waiting to finally buy their life insurance at the end of the year. Like they push it off, push it off, push it off. And then you're going to get on the phone with that one person who's going to tell you, oh, I've been wanting to do this all year long. Like people are definitely still buying a lot of life insurance in this fourth quarter, but flip your mindset and see it as momentum building time. Because if you are like digging your heels in and grinding out the last handful of months of the year, it's going to explode by quarter one. And so you always want to plan out 90 days in advance where you're going. So this is definitely one of those momentum building times. Like visualize, where do I want to be when I'm sitting at convention in 5 months? Like that's how I have always thought about it, and build that momentum starting now. Like don't start January 1st. Like have those goals of like, this is where I want to be, and write it down. It's something that's so small, and I think that we see it like Instagram, TikTok, we see it everywhere. People are like, write it down, but genuinely write it down. Put it somewhere that you are going to look at it every single day. I have it written down I've got a little whiteboard right here in front of my desk. I have it written down. I look at it every single day because it's about pushing that needle forward. Every single day you want to build that momentum. So visualize like this weekend, tonight, like think about, where do I want to be at convention in 5 months? Realistically, 5 months goes by really fast in this industry, but don't let that scare you. Like let the pressure become a fire that lights like a fire under you to like push out the last quarter of this year. And just visualize that. Like, where do I want to be in convention 2026? And start building that momentum like now, like yesterday, and just like keep that momentum going.
Mic drop. Thank you so much. All right. There's just been crazy value. This call is recorded, you guys, so we'll put it on the YouTube page, and I'd go back and listen to it again. And thank you so much for sharing. We hit on so many different things: recruiting, sales, leading others, leading yourself. It just keeps going on and on and on. Lead spin. Like I'm just like, this is jam packed. I can't believe we did it in 52 minutes. Okay. So congratulations. All right. So everybody on here, thank you for being on. You're in the right place. You're on the right team. And we're just so grateful to have people like Madison, Nicolette, the whole team. I know that you guys work with Jay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, freaking Jay. Like, come on, like this is like we're a part of a great, great team. All right. And I'm privileged enough to head up Golden State, but this Family First Life as a whole, there's no better team. We're the 96 Bulls every year. You know what I'm saying? Like we win every single year. So thank you guys. Have a great day. See you soon. Kill it this weekend. Later.